right, for more on this, let's bring in Congresswoman Nancy Mace. She's a Republican from South Carolina. She joins us right now. Congresswoman, thank you for joining us. What's your impression of what the president is doing now?
Well, certainly attacking Americans who are unvaccinated is not the best route to get Americans vaccinated. I do like the idea of having greater accessibility to testing. I actually wrote an op-ed on this at the earliest onset of COVID-19, very early on in the pandemic. I expressed a concern and need for testing across the board. So that's a positive for the American people. But we're also not talking about what we can be doing prophylactically to reduce symptoms of COVID-19. There's been a lot of misinformation from the CDC and Dr. Fauci over the last year and a half, growing seeds of distrust and doubt amongst what we hear from the government. We really ought to be bringing people together, being reassuring that there'll be PPE and masks when different variants pop up. Omicron is coming to a city near you. And we want to give assurances to the American people they can get tested and find out if they have COVID-19 or not, and what we should be doing to prevent COVID-19 together. Working together is what we should really be talking about.
Psaki was also grilled about reports that nearly $100 billion in U.S. COVID relief money was stolen. Listen to what she had to say.
This was also a concerning headline we saw ourselves, but there is no new research, data, or analysis of fraud here. So just to give you the specifics, what happened is there was just an adding up of 2 old IG reports of well-known challenges at small business loans in states getting out UI payments in 2020. And there's been a lot of reporting, I know, from the Associated Press and others about issues with some of those earlier programs. So it's also important to note that even those 2 older analysis combined payments that include mistakes in over and under payments, but it was a reference to 2 older IG reports.
Congresswoman, your thoughts?
Well, if there's $100 billion that have been wasted through fraud and abuse, what are we doing to fix it? What are we doing to right those abuses and ensure it doesn't happen again? It's just like the supply chain issues. Biden is now all of a sudden talking about supply chain. It was Republicans just a few weeks ago in D.C. that had a briefing on supply chain issues. The Democrats haven't done that on the Transportation Infrastructure Committee. We're talking about how vaccine mandates are going to continue to hurt the supply chain. It's very confusing what we hear from the Biden administration right now at a time when we really don't have the opportunity to be confusing. This is a very serious issue. I want to reiterate to folks today that I had COVID-19 a year and a half ago. I was recently diagnosed with asthma because of the COVID that I had. We should be taking it very seriously. It affects people in very, very different ways.
Yes, I think a frustration a lot of Americans have now, and maybe you've seen this in South Carolina, is they feel like, when is this going to be over? It's like we're in Groundhog Day. It's like now we're getting testing. It seems like this is, there are vaccines, there are treatments, there are ways to deal with this, and that's not to diminish the impact as you're talking about your own personal experience.
Absolutely.
Is there,
sure.
Is there any, when will we know we're out of this? I think a lot of people are looking at the administration and feel like, hey, give us something to look forward to.
Yeah, well, we're certainly not the only one in the world. I mean, every country in the world is facing a COVID-19 pandemic, started by China, right, in the Wuhan lab. But together we need to make sure that people have the right information and data. If they want to wear a mask, people should be able to do that. We shouldn't have the government mandate these things. Obviously, the unconstitutional vaccine mandates are problematic for folks. I want to be able to make decisions for my kids because there's no end in sight with COVID-19. But I do know as a parent and as a single mom, when the different variants start creeping up and start spiking, I am making decisions for my family to the best of my ability, as we all should have the opportunity to do that. But when the government starts mandating these things, when the government starts to put out information that turns out to be false or a lie, that's when people distrust the government. They don't trust what we're saying in terms of, the vaccinations and how they are helpful to people. People have growing distrust from the administration because of the lies that have been told throughout COVID-19, and that's enormously problematic.
Yeah, I hope you're feeling okay. You say you got asthma from COVID?
Yeah, so I'm a long hauler. So after I had COVID, I had months of debilitating chronic fatigue, and occasionally that fatigue will still creep up a year and a half later. I've had chest pains on and off for a year and a half now. And then most recently, this fall, I was diagnosed with asthma. I have never had asthma in my life, and the only thing that I can think of is that it was related to COVID. I've had multiple family members now, immediate family members after having COVID, now have asthma as well. It's a very strange disease or illness. I wish we had a broader conversation about the things, whether it's vitamin D and zinc or magnesium, and some of the things that could be helpful to people that have COVID. I'd love to see more research on what we can be doing for those that have long haul COVID like I do.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not the only person in my family with long haul. It's a very serious illness. I don't want to get it again. So when I see Omicron and see how quickly it's spreading, and we're seeing it in DC spread like rapid fire right now in the Northeast.
Right.
I want to be able to take and make the right decisions for myself and my family to protect us. I don't need the government telling me what to do.
Congresswoman, I think you're making some good points, and maybe we can get a doctor in to take a look at exactly what you're talking about. You can share your experience, and we can get you together, and we can have that conversation. Okay,
Yep.
Congresswoman Nancy Mace, thank you so much.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. For more